Hello, welcome back. Welcome to another wonderful episode about tea. And today is kind of a little bit different because right now we're getting into the festive season. So this is the perfect time for people to think about spices and ginger and cakes and such like that. All those different wonderful treats that remind us of comfort and goodness and family. So if you're joining me right now, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. And today we're doing a very special episode because it's actually two parts. I'm going to teach you something beyond tea today. So today we're going to be going over ginger. Now you might be like, ginger, what? I mean, it's not a tea, right? No, it's a root. Some would consider it as an herb, but there are so many good things that you can do with ginger, and ginger has a lot of health benefits with it too. So I'm going to start steeping the ginger, just plain ginger. Now you can add the ginger to anything. If you want a more spicy masala chai, more gingery that way, you want to create pop to a green tea and bring some heat to it, you can use ginger. And these are very large pieces of ginger that are pretty even. It is not ginger powder, it is actually whole chunks of dried ginger. So it's very potent. And if you just follow the instructions on the package, you'll just use a teaspoon. So a teaspoon per 8 ounces of boiling hot water. So we're going to get that going right now. I have my digital kettle already set to boiling hot water. And here you will see my little airship infuser. And I'm going to put a teaspoon of it in there because it will go a long ways. Now, typically with really large chunks of these types of spices, they might take longer to actually penetrate through. So you might steep it twice as long or use twice as much. So what I'm going to do is, instead of steeping it for 3 minutes, I'm going to steep it for 6 minutes to make a very strong extraction. Now, you might be wondering, ginger, that's kind of like a strange thing to have, but I recently just did a podcast episode, if you saw that, where I made a cake, and ginger was one of the ingredients for our orange spice gingerbread cake. Ginger, right? Ginger, you'll use it in there. So let me grab the cake that I had baked, and I already ate some of the cake. So you'll see here, this actually had masala chai, which has ginger in it, and spice melange, which also has a little bit of different spices in it too. And I made a cake with it. So I made a gingerbread cake, and ginger, of course, would be an ingredient in it. So we're going to get this steeping right now. Now, ginger has a lot of great health benefits. It has been known over the centuries for helping people with upset stomachs, colds, even helping with decreased blood sugar for some people. It has also been known for fighting infections, bringing down inflammation. So there's a lot of powerful things that ginger can do for you, but it is not a tea. It would be technically a tisane because it's a spice or an herb, or, it's a root, and we use it for cooking, right? But we also use it in many different herbal infusions. Now we have this really wonderful lemon chamomile that some of you have tried recently that just tastes amazing, super comforting. And when you've got that little achy, upset stomach, ginger's been known for helping alleviate nausea and things like that. I love ginger chew candies. Now, granted, they're full of sugar, but I love ginger candies. And if I could, I would just probably eat and chew on a chunk of ginger. I love it with my sushi, the pickled ginger. So ginger goes a long ways in a myriad of applications. But here we're going to start steeping this ginger. And you're like, just plain ginger. Well, it tastes great on its own without being sweetened. But today I'm going to be sharing with you a special treat of how to infuse your honey with tea. Bonus, right? You thought you were going to learn just about ginger. Well, there you go. I've just steeped the ginger. Now, remember I told you with our ginger chunks at Sipping Streams, they're whole chunks. So it might take twice as much time to get that infused. In the meantime, I'm going to teach you a special recipe about matcha. Okay, I know this is all about ginger and goodness, but just bear with me. I'm going to teach you how to infuse your own matcha honey. Crazy, right? So we just started making this for one of our wholesale customers. So at Sipping Streams, we wholesale teas, honey, hot chocolate, sourdough starters, all kinds of things. And we also custom design products for people for them to actually use under their own label and name, even though it is our own brand, Sipping Streams Tea Company. And you can find our products online. Oh, you can also find them on Walmart.com now, and you can also find them on Amazon.com. Anyways, we also custom private label products that we make for other companies that will be under their own brand name. We are a micro small business. We only have 5 employees. That's including me. That's including Taylor, our community leader on social media and emails, and then our 3 employees who do all of the manufacturing, all the hand blending, the labeling, the cooking, the baking, the servicing the customers, the sales on the floor. All of that stuff is all done by our micro small business. And we really appreciate you helping to support our micro small business so that we can keep our passion alive about educating and helping people change their lives for the better. So this morning we had a great Zoom in the university program that talked all about self-care and self-love and how that's so transformational in helping us with really hard times. So that was our special guest, Julia Hickman, and you'll be able to see her on our podcast, the Essence of Tea podcast too. So lots of things going on here. While I'm steeping the ginger, I'm going to actually show you how to take our award-winning first place winner imperial matcha and how to make it into a slurry so that you can infuse it with honey. And then you instantly already have a sweetened tea with honey. And then we're going to infuse that with the ginger infusion. So now you're going to have a green tea, honey, ginger infusion. So the nice thing about having the matcha made like this already is that you can store it like this. You can store it like this, and matcha is a dried green tea powder, so you have to reconstitute it in a way of like a slurry, a very thick paste, because the powder itself will start to suck the moisture out of the honey, and over time it will start to separate when it starts to crystallize, which is nothing is wrong with that, because then you know it's raw honey. And this is also how we keep our honey raw. Our honey is still at that lower temperature where it does not denature the enzymes. And that's really important for if you're wanting the best health benefits that honey has to offer. Now, if you're super excited, send me some hearts, some thumbs up. Let me know, send me a wave. Let me know that you're really interested in this bonus part of our episode about ginger, because I wanted to show you something cool that we were making and then how to infuse it with our ginger infusion. So let me just let you see overall from the top view here. So here I have just a glass bowl, right? Not a glass bowl, but just a bowl, right? And I'm going to use the slightest, tiniest bit of the imperial matcha because it goes such a long ways. This one that I made earlier today still needs more honey added to it, and I just ran out of honey. It is very, very, very strong. And this had a tablespoon of matcha powder that you can still see in here, and we'll have to continue to whip it up because it was so much matcha powder, but we actually need to add about 2 more pounds of honey to this, and this is about a pound of honey already. So you can see how that's going to go a long ways. So for this, we literally only want to add the tiniest bit, 1/8 of a teaspoon. 1/8 of a teaspoon, because we're going to make it in small portions. So the 1/8 of the teaspoon, we're going to put in the bowl, and we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of boiling hot water. Now, granted, you're not supposed to normally use boiling hot water with matcha, but here we're trying to get the water to extract its goodness of this powder. And then that little bit of heat, which is not going to denature the enzymes, is going to be used to mix in with the honey and help it be a little bit more smooth and liquidy. So the tiniest amount, 1/8 to 1/8, and we're going to mix and make a little powder with this. Whoever thought that you could flavor your honeys with tea? So we're actually making different tea honeys for another company, or different types of honeys for another company in Alaska so far, and they're a health and wellness company, and that's what they're wanting us to do, is to really focus on the health benefits of functional teas. So now you can see this paste, looks almost like green paint. And we're now going to take a different spoon for our jar of raw honey, which I absolutely love raw honey because it's really important to try to get all the goodness out of it as much as possible. And I'm going to put about a cup, the whole bowl of honey, okay? You'll even see that this honey is already starting to crystallize, which is a great sign that if it crystallizes usually and isn't as liquidy, what happens is if you use it from a double boiler and like really ultra heat your honey, there's a threshold where it's like pasteurizing it, and it will not be crystallized anymore. And some people love that texture, but that ultra high heat is exactly what kills the enzymes in the honey that the bees create to make it effective for like fighting infections and things like that. So I'm going to use a whole cup of honey. Now you can see with the crystallized, it's kind of hard to move, but my matcha is hot actually. So my matcha is nice and warm, and it's going to warm up the honey as I stir it, and it's going to become more liquidy, especially because I added some water. The slightest bit, 1/8 of a teaspoon of water, is all you need to not make your honey watery. You don't want to make your honey watery. All right, so now if you see on the bottom, you can already see it infusing with this green paste, and I'm just going to carefully mix the matcha thoroughly in there. Now, of course, it's going to be sweet, right? But what's very interesting about this is now I don't need to even make a cup of green tea. I could use my honey infused green tea, my honey that's infused with matcha, now by the spoonful to make myself a cup of tea. So literally, I would just need to put this matcha honey, in a cup of hot water, and I've got instant tea that's been sweetened with honey. Now, how much denaturing is going to happen with that boiling hot water? Well, if you notice, this is starting to cool down. My cup is starting to cool down with the matcha in it. Granted, it's still going to be over 100 degrees. So how much of the health benefits in it? It might not be as effective if I drink the honey in hot liquid. But you could always spread this on your toast if you wanted to. Top it off, maybe even on top of your gingerbread cake, your orange spice gingerbread cake. And like I said, we just did a podcast episode about that. And so definitely check out the Essence of Tea podcast. And that video is also on our YouTube channel. So see how the color is actually supposed to be like this light green color? I used earlier today way too much matcha. And I thought a spoonful of matcha would be okay, but apparently it goes a long ways. So this is more of the color that I want to do. 1/8 of a teaspoon of matcha powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of water, boiling hot water, into a cup of honey. Isn't that amazing? Crazy, huh? Now that I've already steeped my ginger water, right? Essentially, that's my ginger quote unquote herbal tea. So my ginger infusion, I'm going to make a honey ginger tea, essentially, but it really has tea in it. It has matcha in it. So isn't that crazy? All right. Let me get a bowl to put my... So I need to get a cup to put my infuser in. And now I have this nice golden cup of ginger. Super healthy for me, right? It's cooled down. It's not boiling hot. Oh my gosh, it tastes amazing. I feel like I could just drink this like because like I told you, I love ginger chews, but they're like full of sugar in them. So now this is unsweetened, but it tastes amazing. It's going to help you with decreasing nausea, bringing down some inflammation, perhaps regulating your blood sugar, settling your stomach. And if you have a cold, it can help fight viruses and infections too. But now we're going to add a dollop of our matcha honey into this, and you'll see how the colors change. So instead of making a bowl of matcha or anything like that, you are literally using the matcha powder with the honey as a medium. So it's not going to be watered down. It's going to be a pretty good ratio. And all you're doing is stirring in your honey. So we're stirring it in. It's not going to be super caffeinated. We're just kind of slightly having some matcha in there. You notice it's not super green because what we're wanting more of is the effect of the ginger. It's all about ratios. And it does look a lot more cloudy, less golden, slightly pale green, like a very pale green, like a Dragonwell green tea pale green. Okay. And let's see here. Let's see how it's going to taste, because now it's not super, super strong matcha like earlier today. Ooh, that was very strong matcha. I taste a mildness of the green tea, which you're going to get the oral mouth care health benefits of the matcha green tea. Definitely taste the ginger, and I taste the sweetness too of the honey. Now that was not too much of anything. You can always control your slurry, like how you want to make it, how thick you want to make it on the side. But for me, earlier today when I used a pound of honey and a tablespoon of matcha, there's still clumps in there. Where this one is very, very good, mellow, not overpowering greenness, like where you feel like you're eating kale and honey. So this tastes more like a very, very mild green tea, because sometimes if we have a really strong green tea and the catechins and the tannins are really strong in infusion, it could actually kind of give you an upset stomach or a headache because it's just too concentrated. So for this one, when I made the darker one earlier today into my mug, well, I had to make it in a mug because it was just so strong. So there you go, making a ginger with eventually some tea from the honey infusion. I hope you get to try it at home. I feel like this is a very, very interesting, very sunny, festive, cherry type of experiment that you could do at home. And it's a great way to store your matcha in here. So you want to use way more honey in it, but the reason why you put the water with the matcha powder is because if the matcha went straight into the honey, yes, it could mix thoroughly, but it starts to suck up the moisture and make the honey even harder by extracting its moisture content from the honey. And so it will be more crystallized, because to reconstitute that matcha, it's going to want to pull those molecules of water out of the liquidy honey. So that's why we try to do that with a raw, authentic, plain matcha powder with raw, plain honey. And as you can see, there was some crystallization. We're getting into the cold months, so your honey's going to crystallize a little bit more, but you don't want to actually heat up your honey and then put the matcha powder in it. For those of you who are wondering, you want to actually make it as like a thick paste and then add that, so it's also easier to mix in with only a slight bit. An eighth of a teaspoon of water is all that we put into this cup of honey. So I hope you try it at home, and you can always adjust it to your own liking. For those of you in the university program, you'll be getting your boxes of tea out really soon. We hope that you really, really enjoyed this interesting video about ginger, which we all know is so good for you, but with a special bonus of learning how to make your tea-infused honey. So thank you everyone for joining me. Let me know if you have any questions. And I would also love it if you could do a rating and review for our Essence of Tea podcast that is now everywhere where podcasts are. Stitcher, iHeartRadio. It's even on Amazon too, just like some of our tea products are. So check it out, and I will see you next time. And don't forget, there's going to be an email coming out that in a couple weeks we're going to have a virtual tea party for the university members. So don't miss that. Watch the replay of Julia Hickman talking about self-care, self-love, mental health, like mental health, essentially, just how to be surrounded in this hard time of year, especially with all the festivities that we are about to go into and all the changes that are happening around our world and in our country. So don't forget to watch that link for Julia Hickman, who is going to be on a podcast, and we got that virtual tea party coming up really soon. Hey Sharon, thanks for joining us and saying hi here. So lots of great things happening. And then next month, we will have our Kenyan tea grower as our special guest. So try out these wonderful experiments. Go ahead and watch the replay of our orange spice gingerbread cake recipe. And we really wish you wonderful, wonderful vibes out there. And we love you all. So thank you so much for supporting us. And thank you for being a part of this wonderful program.